yeah, you guys, it's 7:16 here in beautiful, sunny Santa Monica. It's been so long since we've done one of these live streams, and here we are after hours. I hope you've enjoyed the Building a Brand series. We just premiered episode 5. Now you can jump over in my little channel, my little pocket of the internet, the universe that's called YouTube. Today, we got a special guest in the studio with us. She's a little reluctant to come on, but I think you're going to really enjoy the conversation today. Rae, how are you doing?
Good.
That's all you got for me?
Yeah.
Come on.
Okay, I'm doing great. I'm in California for the first time ever.
Traveled from Vermont to be out here, right?
I did.
The home of Ben & Jerry's ice cream, I believe?
Yeah.
Or
yeah, Burlington.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Burlington?
Yeah.
Okay.
Close enough.
Yeah. Okay, so we're talking beforehand, and I think you guys are going to stick around for today's episode because it's titled, I've watched all of your content, and it doesn't work. So you'll find out shortly what Rae is talking about, and we're going to get right into it. So Rae, expand on that. What are you talking about? Like, why doesn't it work?
I did a deep dive.
Let's do it.
Deep dive into business. That's the end of this business that I'm not great at. I've got the technique down. Now I need to make some money. Watching your content, I can see that I need to up the prices, have a little security in what I'm doing, self-confidence, but I can't really seal the deal once I'm talking to clients.
Well, okay, we're talking. That wasn't super clear to me. I'm pretending like I have no idea what we're talking about, and maybe that's not me pretending so much. Like, say it again so that we understand what the heck we're talking about.
So I understand that what I'm making
Okay.
is worth more than what I was asking.
Okay, so you do a creative thing, and you're asking for something that you think is below what you're really worth.
I was, and I've
You were.
started changing that.
Well, first of
but
all,
they're not landing.
Okay. Okay, so are we talking about past tense, present tense, future tense? What are we talking about?
We're talking about now I'm asking for what I know I should be asking for, based off of, the pitch without, or now I'm not going to be able to speak.
The pitch without winning? The win without pitching manifesto.
Exactly. And looking into these different books I've been reading that you've been telling us about.
Yes.
But it's just not landing quite with the clientele like I hoped it would. And maybe I just need to keep going and it'll change.
All right.
So that maybe I'm being impatient.
I get it. So you used to charge this below your value, your market value, and then now you're charging more for your services, and now you're getting some pushback. Things are not working.
Exactly.
But there's a lot of questions that we have to get into. Is it the technique that is wrong, the concept that is wrong? Is it your delivery of the concept? Is it the kind of people you're meeting? Is the assumption that because it's not working that it's because the concept is wrong?
I don't think the concept is wrong. I believe I'm getting better at the delivery. Asking for budgets is part of it. That's the hardest end. Talking about money in general, I'm trying to get better.
Deep breath,
Yeah.
breathe. Every time you say the word money, it's like, is it okay?
I think, honestly, I think it's a mental thing. I still feel like, although I know I can do the work and I'm good at it, I still feel like I'm not worth it to some degree. And I think that's the lining that I'm not addressing fully. Because the clients are large. I have one right now that's a worldwide client. It's a bucket list client. And
Wow.
I thought that would be an easy in for a yes. And I'm having to work for it pretty hard. And I may have to walk away.
Okay. So first of all, can I say something to you? Congratulations that you've worked for however many years you've been doing this, and you're finally in a position to be working with a bucket list client. How amazing is that? For some of us, that might be something like Nike, Xbox, and Sony, and you have your own bucket list. So imagine for a minute you're in Rae's shoes, and that somebody comes calling, and lo and behold, it's somebody that you've always dreamt about working with. And you thought to yourself, if one day in the future, I can work with this kind of client, I'll feel like I've made it. So first of all, congratulations. Did you take a moment to savor it, to acknowledge what has happened, how much work has had to go into the moment, no matter the outcome?
Probably not enough, but I tried. I am trying to
Now,
get better about the
Does
present
your voice
moment.
go higher when you lie?
Probably.
Not enough. It's like, maybe you haven't. And it's okay to say that, right? It's okay to say. It didn't occur to me to thank myself for putting in the work,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
Okay, so that's what we all need to do. We need to take a moment to take it in. There was a video that I saw with Snoop Dogg, and he's out on the street. I think it's New York. He's standing there. He's like, I'd like to thank me. He's like, I'd like to thank me for working so hard, for not giving up, for putting the time, the energy, and effort, for ignoring the naysayers. And it was like, that's who you should thank. So, okay, fine. You're here. A dream client has called you.
I kicked ass. They found me.
There you go.
They were going after me. I didn't go in knowing I was up against anyone. It was just me.
Okay.
So that was the other end that made me feel confident that I could ask for more. And so I put everything out there. And their budget is far lower than what I think industry standard for that size of a client should be. And there is a bit of a moral compass situation where I don't want to continue taking prices that are lowering the standard for the entire industry.
Wow, that's a big burden to carry.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so they're asking you to do something creative, and you're like, okay, this is what it's going to cost. And I'm not giving you a super inflated price. It's just a fair price, right? Mm-hmm. And then they say to you, that's more than what we can spend. It's this. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going into the situation with expectations that a dream client should have a dream budget, right? And oftentimes, at least in my experience, it's not been the case at all. Your dream client has a line of people wanting to work with them, so they have their choice of any creative in the world. Such a client might be Nike, where they know everybody wants to work on Nike, because to say that you've worked with Nike is an accomplishment for a lot of people. And so sometimes the leverage is on their side. So we just need to understand that. Mm-hmm. Okay? And so now you floated a price and they're balking. So what are your options right now?
I can try to get them a little higher. I'm hoping to meet with them while I'm here. But if they don't raise it, I feel like I need to be able to say no.
Are you miles apart?
Distance-wise or?
No, budget-wise.
Budget-wise, yeah.
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 So it's so far apart that it may not work. So you said the number first, or they said the number first?
I said the number first in this one,
okay,
knowing that I should have gotten the
Can
budget
you tell me
first.
the number?
Ballpark of what I gave them.
Yeah.
I believe it was around like 4 to 6.
4 to 6 million?
Grand. 1,000.
Okay. That's a very small price bracket, by the way. Because between 4 to 6 is 5. Why don't you just say 5?
It depended on what they wanted included. So it gave them a little bit of a range of this is the high, this is the low.
So you're not watching all of our content, as it turns out.
I'm watching it, but I'm not listening to
it. So you can't blame us.
Oh,
I'll
no.
watch all your content. I'm not listening to anything, but whatever.
Hey, I didn't blame you.
Hey.
Hey.
Okay.
And therein lies the problem, is I'm absorbing the content and I'm not having the self-confidence to apply it all.
Okay. Let's work on that.
That's
then.
the problem.
Let's work on that. So the thing that we say when it comes to price bracketing is you need to come up with a larger bracket. Mm-hmm. So instead of saying 4 to 6, which is tiny in terms of the variance between there, because the only number between 4 and 6 that I know is 5, right? A whole number, 4 and 6. So you should probably say, I don't know what we're talking about just yet, but it's going to probably come in between 5 and 10,000. Or you can use the Blair Ends technique and say the bigger number first, because that's anchoring. Mm-hmm. And you can say it's probably going to be somewhere between $10,000 to $5,000. That 10 is the number that it's going to stick in their mind. So when they come back at you, they're going to be less likely to say 2 or 3. They're going to be sitting there thinking, 10 to 5. It's like, what if we say 6 or 7? We'll go on the low end of our bracket.
They said 1,500.
No, I know, because the bracket was not one step at a time. Young Jedi. Can we stay with the program? Okay? So you're supposed to use a higher bracket between 5 and 10.
Right.
That's how you're supposed to do it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So they're saying in the chat window already, you didn't anchor high. You did not anchor high. That's what Angel Velasquez is saying.
What my brain immediately wants to respond is anchoring higher to me doesn't feel like it's helping because they're so far below even my low end. So and maybe that is the problem is I'm having trouble absorbing the psychology behind it and not fully trusting that it'll work. But if their budget was that low.
Well, you didn't know that before you said the number.
True.
So the only thing that you have right now is after the fact. So you're going to do the Monday morning quarterback thing. Like, well, that happened. So then why don't you just try in earnest to apply the things that we're saying for you to do? To do price bracketing and anchor high and say the higher number first and see what happens. Can you do that?
Of course.
I'm going to give you an example right now. If you've been paying attention to the channel, we've talked a lot about bias, cognitive bias, and one of them is called anchoring, that we tend to rely too much on the first piece of information we're given. So here's a real world situation. Greg and I are speaking to a potential person to help us work on a project. And in my mind, I'm thinking it's probably going to be a few $1,000s, right? And then the person comes back and says $25,000. I was like, what? $25,000? That's so much money. And so Greg asked me, like, what did you want to spend, Chris? And I said, I don't know, probably between 5 and 10 at most. So I tell the same story to Matthew during lunch, who wasn't part of any of this dialogue at all. He goes, Chris, really, how much money would you have spent if it wasn't an anchor that was dropped on you? I said a few $1,000, probably 3. He goes, exactly. You see, so even in my heart, I knew I only wanted to spend a few $1,000. As soon as somebody said 25, all of a sudden I'm like, what's wrong with me? 3 is too little. It should be more. So I automatically tripled my budget to 10. Can you believe that? And I'm even familiar with these concepts. It's because this is how we're hardwired. We can't help ourselves. So you did yourself a disservice by saying 4 to 6. Next time I'm telling you, say 5 to 10 and see what happens. It might not be that they come back with 1,500. They might come back with 3,000, which gets you a little bit closer to where you want it to be anyways, right? So will you try that? How much more evidence, anecdotal or otherwise, do you need from me for you to start to feel like this works?
That's what I'm concerned with is I know the thought process, but that doesn't necessarily change the self-confidence end. And I think that's why I'm trying to focus on that side of that mindfulness and self-confidence to be able to do that. And
okay.
Because in the end, I now grip with losing a potential client that I really want to work with. So it's constant feel.
You've not lost anything. You didn't lose anything. They found you, remember?
Yeah.
So easy come, easy go.
Yeah.
Right? So just remember that. Because now you're sitting there thinking, dream client, I don't want to lose them. So now I'm going to do everything I can to retain them as a client. Well, you didn't have them as a client. You don't have them as a client until they deposit money into your bank account. Now, I also want to give a nod to Jaden, this is his first time cutting the live stream for us. So Jaden, thank you very much. If you have a mic, Jaden, and if you want to join the conversation, I encourage you to. You can do that, okay? I'll be monitoring your comments in the chat. I see that there are about 25 people watching, which is a good number for me on my personal channel. A horrible number if it's the main channel because 25 people. No announcement. This is the diehard, hardcore Future fam donuts that are in here because you guys must have subscribed and hit that bell icon because otherwise you would not have known. So this time I'm able to read your comments a little bit. So you guys, if you have something that's pertinent to our conversation, make sure you make a comment in the chat right now live and I'll do my best to read them. But keep it really short and succinct because I can't read while I'm hosting the channel here or hosting the show. Okay, so you're going into this, Rae, with a lot of expectations about yourself and how you want this to go down. And you're fighting that. You're negotiating against yourself. Can you see that happening?
Yeah, it's rough.
It's rough?
Yeah.
What's the battle like inside your mind? What does it sound like?
Chaos.
Can you act it out for us?
No.
No?
Not without knocking things over. Yeah, it's a struggle. It's a struggle coming out of basically hibernation and jumping into a world that I've hidden from. So this is pushing my boundaries very quickly. which has been nice. Watching the Future has helped me probably jump further than I have before, faster. But this is still the price thing. And I run a company where we have bigger numbers and I have no problem there. Working with the Airstreams and the Vans, I can drop, $200,000 projects, no problem, and break them down. But when it comes to my own work, the wall goes up.
That's very interesting. So when you have to talk about numbers for a company, you're representing not just yourself, but a whole team of people.
Small team, but yeah.
But it's a team of people.
Beyond myself, yeah.
It's beyond yourself. And you're willing to fight for the team, to see value in the team, but you're not willing to see value in yourself, right?
100%.
So what if you added a fictitious partner to your team of one?
I could do that.
Whatever you need to do. Do you support anybody financially?
Right now, myself and my dog.
What's your dog's name?
He's got to eat. Onyx.
Onyx. So it's Rae and Onyx. And if you need to change the name of your company to Onyx, right?
Yeah.
You got to take care of your boy?
Yes.
Yeah, you got to take care of your boy and your family. You're supporting the two of you, so you can go in there and negotiate for the two of you, right?
Yeah.
If some stranger came in and kicked you, you might not mind it too much. Somebody kicked your dog, Onyx, you'd probably fight them.
Yeah,
right?
to the death.
But you see how that you had a feeling for something else other than yourself?
Yeah.
Can we learn to love that thing and then love ourselves at the same time?
Yeah.
I think you can. Okay, so you watched our channel.
I have.
You've not listened to any of it. You've applied less of it.
Oh, stop.
So then none of it works. Surprise! So that was a little clickbaity title, I guess. I've watched all of your content and it doesn't work.
You're just trying to start drama.
That's what I'm about. Drama's my middle name. Chris Drama Doe. Did you know that? I don't tell people my middle name often, but it's Drama. Most definitely. Okay. What else can we talk about? And I want to give context to why the heck Rae's in this booth to begin with. I met Rae at Creative South. She attended my workshop and she was really mouthy in the best kind of way, because she was like saying really smart things. And I said to her, hey, I really appreciate the points that you brought up. I'd like to continue this conversation because you made some really intelligent points and I can see you're a deep thinker. So I didn't know that months later, here we are, post Creative South, and we're in the booth. You are in LA for a number of different reasons.
We survived a tornado.
We survived a tornado together. It was just fantastic.
Yeah.
True story. With Ryan. Okay, so here we are. So there's a bunch of things I want to talk to you about, but I want to see what's most pressing and interesting to you to talk about first.
Well, we started with that. I want to know what you want to know now.
What do you mean?
The back and forth. I gave the first one. What's your next idea?
My next idea?
Well, you said you have a lot of things you want to talk about.
There's a lot of things I want to talk about you. Or with you. What are those things? I mean, we drove in a car for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and it was nonstop chatter.
It was.
And now here we are. Mic is on, lights are on, audience is tuned in. Let's get after it.
Okay.
And Jaden, do you have a mic or no?
Yeah, I got a mic.
You got a mic. Okay, excellent. Thank you. So Jaden, if you read something or if you hear something or something comes to your mind and you want to talk about it, just jump on into the conversation, okay?
Okay, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, Rae.
All right.
The world's watching.
Oh, great.
What else can we talk
The
about?
world of 25 people.
Today.
Oh, yeah, right. Great. Internet doesn't ever go away.
Yes.
We can continue the mental wellness portion if you want to go that route. Self-confidence.
Well, let's talk about that. Go ahead. Open it up.
Okay. I have a firm belief that as creatives, we spend a lot of money on our typefaces and our computers and our tools that help make what we're creating, but we don't put the same time and effort and money into ourselves. And if it weren't for ourselves, we wouldn't be making anything, period. So that's become something after getting through a chronic illness that I'm now learning to live with, that I've needed to open my eyes to. And I'm seeing a lot of people throughout the industry, and ones that are close by are going through similar. So I think we need to start making, therapy less taboo, mental health, taking care of ourselves physically. It needs to become more important.
I agree 100%. So is the idea that you go see a therapist, is that still taboo?
It's definitely getting better. But I feel that there are a lot of people who are still afraid of it, or they don't want to put the money toward it. It becomes a conversation now around not having healthcare, so they don't do it. But they'll save their money up for a new, system, whether that's to play games or create games on, or, your new camera. And maybe some of those things can wait a little longer so that you can use some of that money you've been saving to go and get yourself some help, because it makes a world of difference. Even if you aren't in a bad spot, therapy has been eye-opening in many ways for me and my friends. So I'm just hoping it gets lifted up the priority list now.
Okay, so let's figure out what we can do with this thing. I've mentioned several times on this show that I have seen a therapist many years ago, and it's done wonders for me. I feel zero sense of shame or taboo surrounding saying that. And so if by saying that more often, it can help people feel like, hey, you don't have to be sick. You don't have to be unwell or unfit mentally to go see a therapist. And we can sit here and talk about what values or what we've gained from going to see a therapist, right? Should we do that to kind of take away some of the stigma behind it? Or what? What should we talk about, Rae?
Yeah, I guess we could go down that path. Just maybe the insights that you gleaned from your experience. I know that you watch people, and you've said that.
You say that like in a very super creepy way, like, I watch people.
Well, it's about absorbing what they're absorbing from other people. You watch them in different ways.
Yes.
Instead of trying to enforce what you think upon people, you try to absorb it. And you've said you've done that with therapy as well. So
Yes.
I'm interested,
Okay.
maybe what
Good.
some of the top things were you.
Yeah, I like how you like shoulder shift on that. I like that. Okay, so let me just say this for the record. I don't watch people. I study.
Yeah.
Don't beat me to my own line. That's called the
Sorry.
pregnant pause. Yes. I study people. I want to observe them. I want to see their mannerisms. I want to see what makes them tick. I'm trying to understand them. Really, I am. And so many years ago, I had said to my business coach, Keir McLaren, I'd like to go see a therapist. He's go, great, I'll recommend you one right now. And then I made an appointment and we went to see her. Her name's Joan Lightfoot. She lives in the Pacific Palisades and she's a wonderful family therapist. And there's a distinction between the different kinds of therapy. So her specialty is family therapy. And of course, I went with my family. I went with my wife. I don't think I ever went with my kids, but sometimes I would go alone and sometimes I would go with my wife. And it's a wonderful time. It was like date night for us or date day. So it was a time where both my wife and I committed to going to do something to strengthen our relationship. So we had blocked out 1 hour and we would go, we would sit and we would follow Joan's instructions and she would learn about our family, our history, our birth order, and tell us lots of things about how we're kind of hardwired. But the thing that she helped me out a lot with, which is the family part, which at that point in time, I was struggling with my son, and I think he was, I want to say like 4 or 5 years old. So he missed the terrible twos, but they came really hard at 4 and 5 years old.
Okay.
So this is now like 10 years ago that I've gone, right? So it's been some time. I go and see her, and my son Otto's having these crazy temper tantrums that are lasting an hour long. He's screaming and yelling, and I just wanted out. And we didn't know how to resolve that. So the prompt for me was to get help with that, but then also to learn about myself and to learn about how I can strengthen the relationship between my wife and I. Now, I don't know the exact number, but I want to say I went all of about 12 times, which I thought was fantastic. And I thought Joan was great because my feeling about therapy is if you're getting better, eventually you don't need to see the therapist anymore. I want to make progress. So what she did was she gave me highly actionable advice that worked like a miracle. So now I'm like a crack addict. I'm like, give me some more of that. So not only did I get real tools in terms of how to behave and communicate and what's motivating people. I'll share one gem that she told me, okay? She told me that children feel safe when somebody's in charge. When nobody's in charge, they feel really uneasy. And I was thinking about that. And it seems counterintuitive to say, like, do this, don't do that, follow me, these are the rules. It's because they know that somebody's going to take care of them. And that's why in the formative years of their childhood, whenever there was a potential for danger, they would always rush to dad. That was me. Because they knew whether I had the answer or not, I was in control. I was in charge. Follow me, do this. That's how it's going to work. And it worked really well. They felt very safe with me.
I think that applies across the board too, if you bring it back to the workplace.
Yes, it does.
Of course. And it giving that structure allows people to know who to look to. It gives them comfortability in what they're doing, security in what they're doing. And I think that that's great to keep that communication open. And
Did you just lose your train of thought?
I did.
You were just talking and then you just drifted out to nowhere.
Well, you're making me stare at myself, so I'm
not
I
making
feel
you
like
stare
I'm
at yourself.
talking at myself.
Yes, you are. And you're uncomfortable looking at yourself, huh?
I am. See, look at this. What I learned
looking at
is
me.
vulnerability and looking yourself in the mirror.
Yeah.
That's what I have a hard time with.
Well, our audience needs to connect with you, so they need to see you, not
Yes.
like you looking over there. Because it's like, why won't she talk to me? And you're talking to me
Hi,
right now.
I see you.
Yes, and I see you too. Okay, fantastic.
I was talking to them. But.
All right. So keep going.
So yeah, vulnerability is a big one that I think is part of my issue with the money talk and with some of these responsibilities that I now need to take by myself for my company. Being vulnerable in my relationships and with my career are hurdles I'm attempting to climb at the moment.
Okay. So I agree with you. So the interesting thing is there's ways to govern children, and I don't want to sound dismissive to anybody right now, but there's ways to govern your team, and then you start to say like, oh my gosh, you're right. There's some parallels here, aren't there?
Yeah.
So the more I learn how to deal with my children, the more I'm like, wait, I can apply this to the office.
Yeah.
There's a trouble personality at the office, and I can use the same technique. So this is wonderful, and I learned this, right? Another thing I learned from Joan was when my son was yelling and screaming and saying horrible things about both his parents, sometimes more towards me than my wife. I was like, I'm hurt. I know he's not like fully in control of what he's saying, but I'm hurt right now. What do I do? And she said, your child is just looking for attention. Good attention, bad attention, any kind of attention. So he's attention seeking right now. Mm-hmm. So the way you take away his anger and his control and his power is not to give him attention. I said, but am I just ignoring him? Am I a bad parent if I ignore him? And she said, here's what you do. And I did exactly what she said to do, which was to walk into the room and to say this. I said, I see that you're upset. I want to be here for you, but I can't talk to you like this. Mm-hmm. I just came in to see how you're doing. I'm going to leave. I'll be downstairs or I'll be in the living room. When you're ready to talk to me, I'll be there. And I walked away. So what he wanted to do was to have the power and the control, which is to tell me, get out, I don't want you, I don't love you. He'll say anything to have control and power. And then you're like, why would you say that to me? I'm here and I love you, and you're giving him everything he wants. Or I can't believe you're saying that. Do you know you're hurting me? Those kinds of things, right? Mm-hmm. So by saying, I'm here to check in on you, I'm going to leave in a second. If you want to talk to me, I'm in the other room. That gives him all the information he needs, which is, I acknowledge you, I'm concerned about you, but I'm leaving. So I would walk to the other room and think, how's that going to stop? How's that going to change anything? And almost like if you can set your watch to it and just look at your watch. In 3, 2, 1, the crying stopped. And a couple of minutes later, the door opens. He wanders downstairs as if nothing has happened and everything's cool. And I was thinking, this is a miracle. Okay. But that's not why I'm talking about therapy. I'm talking about therapy because if you want to get better at anything, sports, chess, business, you get a coach. Mm-hmm. If you want to start to understand how your mind works and why you're afraid to talk about certain things or why you get angry at certain things that you don't understand, you get a coach for that. Mm-hmm. We probably should call therapists coaches because then there's no stigma attached. But if you think about it, if I want to improve something, I get help for that specific thing. It just so happens to be called therapy when it comes to your mind. I think because there's such a strong association with people going psycho, right? That have really strong neurochemical issues going on that they need help with. And they get like heavy duty treatment for that. But for the rest of us, we're just looking for tools. And she taught me communication tools, or she taught me how one diagnoses a problem and how to help me, the client, get greater perspective on what it is I want to do. And with very few words, she was very economical with words. I could talk most of the time, and then she would insert a couple of words, and then my whole perspective would change. That was powerful.
Yeah.
So oftentimes I would sit on the couch talking to my therapist, getting great, valuable advice, getting to learn about these probative questions that she was asking, while seeing somebody who has a master's or a PhD in something, how they govern themselves, how they behave, how they manage energy. And that was 2 or 3 lessons all in one. And I don't know if her rates changed or not, but at the time, it was $100 an hour. To me, that's super affordable.
Seeing as it's paid off for the last decade.
Seeing how I've
You got your money's worth there.
I got way more than my money's worth.
Yeah.
I've learned so much. So I'm gonna encourage everybody out there. You don't have to have anything wrong with you. You don't have to be sick in the head. You don't have to have a short temper or be crazy. You just want to improve the way you think, or to understand how you process things, and maybe to become a little bit more neutral or unbiased when it comes to talking to clients, or understanding your emotions a little bit better.
Yeah, and
Go see a therapist.
I think that's where it all comes back together, is you can absorb as much content as you want. You can work on your technique. You can learn new programs, and everyone wants that magic pill of how do they find success. But if you aren't, in touch with your inner truth, if you're having issues with, mind, body, soul, basically any or all of those elements, you may not be able to find or get over that hump, so that you can find the success. Because I know your content pretty well, normally, and I have the intelligence to do so.
Yes,
but
you do.
There is that missing piece that without therapy and doing my self-work and taking that time, I'm not going to reach it. It doesn't matter how many times you tell me. It's my self-work that I have to work on, my self-confidence. And I think that therapy is one of those methods to get there, at least with a helping hand.
Yeah. If I could do so, I would have all high school kids go through therapy, so at least they experience what it's like for themselves firsthand for a couple of sessions, if nothing more than an introductory to what therapy looks like, so that later on when they need help, they're familiar with it. That's what that looks like. And we need to destigmatize this if it still exists. I want to acknowledge a few people who are chatting and commenting inside the live chat thing here, and I want to ask before I do this that all 39 of you guys that are watching this live right now, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. I see that there are 19 people who have done so thank you very much, the 19. Please go ahead and hit thumbs up. Come on. There's no reason why you're on this channel to begin with, because we make it very hard for you to find. So I'm assuming, this is a big assumption, that you're here because you want to learn more about what it is that I have to share with you and the people that I have on the show. So I'm going to read a comment here, or a question from Edward Gross. He's saying, I feel like people base what they charge on self-worth. Don't you agree, Chris? So Rae, before I answer, I'm going to throw the question to you.
I think that's what's keeping me from doing things properly.
So do you have low self-esteem, Rae?
Yeah.
Can we talk about that?
Sure.
Expand.
Let's lay it out there.
Lay it out there. Nobody's watching. It's only 39 people. Don't worry about it.
Hey, guys. This is a therapy session now.
Yes.
I mean, it's past trauma, and I think it's a good 5 years of basically being a hermit, and dealing with an illness. So coming back from that, I feel like a different person physically, and mentally definitely changes. You can't go through some of those things and not come out feeling like a different person. And what I do is so much a part of myself that gets tied in. So my career has been held back because of that. I'm ready for that to change. But I'm finding that there's a lot more mental hurdles than I accounted for.
Okay, so here's what I wanted to understand. You and I were two human beings. We're walking on Earth. You have more hair than me. You're thinner than I am. Let's acknowledge the differences, okay? So now, outside of that, I've just been trying to figure this out, and I don't have a great answer for this. Why do I have self-confidence while you have, in your words here, it's like lower self-esteem? What do you
Yeah.
think makes us different? You've gotten to know me a little bit over the 3 days at Creative South. We drove. We were like trapped together in a car,
We were.
chasing tornadoes, right?
Yes.
So, and self-described, you've consumed a lot of our content. I am often perplexed as to why people have such low opinion of themselves and so therefore low value.
I do think there's part of it that is almost a talent in itself, honestly.
Oh, there you go.
I'm going to pull it out there.
Put it back in. Okay, go
No,
ahead.
some people just, that is one part of it. Some people are innately good at believing in themselves. And then there's others that have trauma that affects them, which I think is definitely part of mine. There's illnesses, there's experiences that just kind of hit you and you can't get through. And those are what I'm working on now. There are more from my past that I thought were gone, and you bury it and you realize that they're still there. And I think it just manifests over time. There are moments where I feel very confident, and then like a switch will flip. And that's where I feel like that imposter syndrome that a lot of the creatives talk about.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to get radical with you, okay?
Yeah, go for it.
And if it gets uncomfortable for you, just put your hand up and like, it's too much. Okay?
Yep.
I'm letting you know, like, we should pick a safe word right now.
Tequila.
Tequila will be our word. And if it gets really uncomfortable for you, our audience, just tune out. I'm going to get into it. Do you love yourself?
Not fully.
Tell me the parts that you do love.
I feel like I love my talent, my technique to draw.
Okay, you're a good drafts person.
Mm-hmm.
What else?
I'm a storyteller.
Okay.
I'm not going to do that I take care of people thing.
Keep going. What do you love about yourself?
I love that I'm Puerto Rican. I
going.
love that I am pushing myself more this year than ever before and scaring myself to hit some bucket lists like coming to California.
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say more things about what I make, but I don't want to be about all the things that I make.
Let's not judge. Let's just say.
Okay.
Okay. Put away the judgment for a second. Keep going.
Yeah.
What do you love about yourself?
I don't judge other people, even though I judge myself. I'm a good friend and listener. I like my style.
You have cool style.
And my interiors are kick-ass.
Well, people need to understand that
Airstream,
you
fan.
design. You're like an industrial designer, right?
I'd say like small spatial designer. It's fit in little containers.
There we go.
Yeah.
Small spatial designer.
There we go. Vans, buses,
Yeah.
Airstreams.
Okay.
And I mean, I could talk about that all day. I mean, that's where
Right.
the confidence comes in.
Okay, so you're very confident about your craft, what it is that
Yeah.
you do and what you make. And there's nothing wrong with that at all. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you just focus on the 7 or 8 things that you listed, and let's not forget to mention, I think you're a really intelligent woman and you're very articulate too.
Thank you.
That's why you're on the show, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, get
that
out of
is
here.
true.
I want somebody else in the booth with me. Okay. All right, let's keep going down that list then. So now there are things that you don't love about yourself.
Uh-huh.
Things that you're afraid somebody's going to discover about you. That's where the imposter syndrome comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's start with the easy one. What things don't you like about yourself?
That's the easy one.
No, start with an easy one
Oh,
before you
an
get to the
easy
really
one.
deep
Okay.
one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's start easy. What don't you like about yourself?
There's like physical stuff.
Say it.
Like my teeth,
Okay, go on. What else?
my nose.
Okay, what else?
I don't like that I'm not tan because I live in Vermont in a cave.
Go on. So you're afraid? Let me just check right now. Because I have eyes. I see your nose. I see your teeth. And I see that you're relatively pale for a Puerto Rican woman.
I am. I'm a
Relatively.
vampire.
Okay,
Puerto Rican vampire.
that's fine. So you don't think I see that?
Yeah,
So you're afraid I'm going to discover that about you?
that is true.
I mean, that's kind of weird.
I don't think
You know what I'm
it's
afraid
the
of?
discovery, it's
Can I
the
say
judging. What?
Right. I'm afraid that you're going to discover I don't have hair. Oh.
It's
You
not
see what I'm
hiding
saying?
under that.
It's not hiding.
headband.
Okay, there's not a patch of hair right there. That would be a strange haircut, right? It's a sideways mohawk, you guys.
So you're always wearing a hat or a headset.
Yeah, I'm always wearing a headset to cover up that one patch of hair that's running across from ear to ear. It's a new look. It's very modern. But you see, it's like we are afraid of people discovering things that they already know about us.
Yeah.
So we live in fear of that. Is there something else? Now let's go for a deeper one.
The hidden stuff.
Yeah, the stuff that you don't love, but maybe people don't know.
Oh. Even though I plan to do things in a timely manner, I let anxiety stunt what I'm doing, and I have ghosted people. I've been too afraid to give people budgets.
Flaky?
Yeah, it's made me look flaky, and I sit there feeling ashamed because I know when the deadline should have been hit. I know when the thing should have gone out, and it didn't. And then you have to backtrack and you have to lie or make up stories, or at least I feel that I do, in order to repair relationships that should never have been tarnished in the first place because I knew what I should have done, but I didn't do it.
Okay, so you're talking about events now, not necessarily things about yourself. In the past, you've suffered from some anxiety and you might have flaked out on a person or two, and it's caused you great grief and stress.
Of work, like
right?
Of doing the thing.
I get that.
Yeah.
And over time, you do that less and less. Hopefully not at all anymore, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That is true. I have gotten much better.
What's the problem here?
I think it sits in you, or at least that...
Is that a bad thing?
That it sits there?
Yeah.
I think if it's causing anxiety and it's not serving you any longer, yeah. I think there's some of it that needs to kind of pass through and
all right.
And move
well,
forward.
I'm going to make a different argument for you.
Okay. You want it to sit there?
I think it's a good thing.
To keep me on track?
I think it's a good thing. It says a lot about your character that you gave somebody your word that you're going to do something, and for a number of different reasons it didn't happen, and you feel bad about it, and it weighs heavy on your soul. I think that's a sign of character. Imagine the opposite, which is you gave somebody your word and you blew them off and you felt zero sense of remorse and you don't think about it at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we just need to recode how your brain is processing this piece of information. And you're processing like, this is a horrible thing. I'm a horrible human being. How could I be such a thing? But what we've done is we've said, and we agree to this, I believe, we all make mistakes. Mm-hmm. There are growing opportunities. There are learning opportunities. And I hold them in my heart, so I remind myself, I don't like that feeling, don't do that again. But I don't beat myself up over it. I don't feel like I'm afraid of people exposing this truth about what has happened in the past. Mm-hmm. I've screwed up on many, many jobs. I've cost friends and clients money because I didn't know what I was doing. I've lost jobs because I didn't know what to say, or I said the wrong thing.
And that didn't stick with you, like...
No. It sticks with you in a sense that I've learned and I'm moving on.
Yeah.
So there's the part of acknowledging it and then forgiving yourself and saying, actually, I needed to learn this lesson. Better learn it now while the stakes are still manageable versus like when I'm building a $2 billion luxury yacht. Right?
Very true.
When the stakes are much, much, much higher. So I think this is the part of you that holds on to the bad but doesn't accept it for the good that it's doing for you. And I think that's where some of the issues are coming in. But everything you said to me so far is pretty lightweight. Well, are you holding back on me?
Probably.
I know you are. So let's get to it. It's called After Hours, not like hide and seek.
Oh, God.
Let's go.
Like, I don't know.
Pour your soul
Can
out.
you say one?
Say one.
You gotta
what?
warm me up. Something you don't like about yourself. I feel like I'm in the hot seat.
You are in the hot seat. You don't have to feel like it. You are. If need be, we'll turn up the temperature in this room for you. No, it's like, I don't know what it is that I don't like about myself because I've learned to love everything about me, both good and bad. So it's like, what else is there not to like?
I am getting there. I have to say more than I ever have been.
Okay.
I mean, the illness thing, leaving me with a body I'm not comfortable in has been really hard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like being in it's just...
You have
Yeah.
extreme allergies, or how do we describe this?
Colitis.
Colitis. And what does
Yeah.
that mean for
So,
people who don't know?
As much as I know, because I'm not a sciencey person, it's like Crohn's for your large intestine or your intestines. So it's just like I can barely eat anything at this point.
Okay, tell us what you can't eat.
Can't eat
Soy.
You almost know all these by now.
Dairy.
Soy, dairy, coffee, gluten, shellfish. Honestly, the main basic
Nuts?
allergens. I can't have peanuts. Can't have anything with like corn syrup, cornstarch,
Nothing
soy,
with corn.
lecithin, whatever, however
Cool.
you say it.
Yep.
Yeah. Just learning how many different products have things in it you never realized.
Right.
So that gave me anxiety going to a grocery store because I had to spend an hour and a half in the beginning reading every single label. So I stopped going grocery shopping and I stopped going out to eat for dinner. And I basically, that's that hermit lifestyle. I did use the time to research and learn my craft a little more, but on the social anxiety end of things, I'm just now addressing that. Going to Creative South was a big one.
Keep going. I have to text my son.
Sounds good. So yeah, that has touched more of my life than I thought. I thought I could bury it and ignore it. My body rejected that, and so now I'm kind of faced with a new lifestyle that I needed to adopt, or continue going to the hospital, which is not fun.
All right, now we understand the physical elements that you have.
Yeah.
A lot of things that you cannot eat, and you have to be really disciplined and be careful because otherwise bad things will happen to you, right? So you had said at the beginning, there's parts I don't love about myself and the self-esteem. I think we know what those things are.
What?
Well, you're not going to tell us.
I don't know if I'm ready to share them with 40 people.
Is it time to say the tequila? It's 43 now, excuse me.
Oh God, we're gonna like jump everything up because secrets are shared.
Yeah, I mean, why are you holding back? What are you afraid of? See, here's the thing. I did a workshop recently called Finding Your Superpower, and part of one of the exercises that I did was to help people recognize all the good things they love about themselves and all the weird things that they don't like about themselves. And one person after another started admitting really sort of embarrassing, very personal things about themselves. And they were shaking when they said it. Like one person said that she was anorexic, a recovering anorexic, right? And a bunch of other things. And then I asked her a moment later, like, how do you feel? And she smiled and she said, surprisingly, liberated. And then she posted on social media the very same, very personal things that she was afraid to say. It's very empowering to own your story. And if you're afraid of somebody discovering something about you, just let them know. And then you don't have to worry about them discovering that thing anymore. It won't have any power over you. So I don't want to push you beyond the brink of destruction. So I just want to ask you to think about it. I'm pretty sure if the cameras weren't on, the lights weren't here, and 44 people weren't watching, you would probably just tell me.
Yeah, probably.
And so here's the thing. If you're comfortable telling me, tell 5 more people.
5 more people.
Tell 10 more
This
people.
doesn't
Tell
go
44
away.
more people. Not now. I don't want you to say something that you're going to regret and just spiral you into a deep, dark, depressive hole. I don't want to do that.
And honestly, like I think part of it is the mindset is left over. There isn't as many things as there used to be. And so I get frustrated with myself that I shouldn't still feel this way when I am getting happier and starting to accept how I look and how I function, and I'm changing, my entire life to be the person that I want to be and to be speaking my truth and living my truth. But it's like the residual stuff won't go away. So that's where, honestly, sometimes I am confused what is triggering it. And that's why I go to therapy.
Okay.
We're digging through. But
Right,
I think that everybody does need to do this with themselves and their friends or their family.
Yeah.
And really start getting vulnerable and putting themselves first.
Would you like to? No, I'm just kidding. Getting real vulnerable right now. Okay. Creative Kira saying, thank you so much for the team, the time and effort that we put into these empowering us designers. Thank you very much, Creative Kira, for saying that. A bunch of other comments. There's some debate going on between Scientist X and their names and whatever. I would just ignore it. I don't want to answer any questions because it's going to derail this conversation. If you guys have something super important to say, Angel wants to know, could she be holding back? And it's like, yeah. I don't think that's a question, Angel. I think, yes, most definitely she's holding back for very deliberate reasons. She's not ready right now, and I don't want to push her. I would not be a good friend and probably an irresponsible YouTube host creator to push somebody beyond where they are ready to go, unless they give me permission to, which I've not received beforehand. Okay.
I think to put a positive spin on that, because that's something I'm trying to do, is that even coming on and talking the little bit that I am is huge. So I think that goes to us celebrating our small wins. They may not always seem big to other people, but that doesn't matter if it's getting you closer to where you want to be as a person.
Yeah.
So
I want to say hi to Scotty Valentine from Ballet Academy. He's online saying, I think Chris is working towards something, but oh well. And Angel Velasquez is saying, spill it, sister.
Come have tequila with us after. I'll start talking more.
Panic word, safety word. Okay. All right.
Oh, whoops.
Yes, that's all okay. That's all okay. You know what, guys? Ooh, Jeremy McDonald says, are we saying you need to see a licensed therapist?
I don't think that you need to start there if you're not ready or you can't afford it. I think that it's smart to start thinking of it as an option and trying people out, first of all. You may not hit the right one the first time, but you might also find that in friends or family or mentors, other confidants, even a school counselor, and test your boundaries with different people so that you can have these conversations. And one of my favorite things to do right now when I'm working or having these conversations with people in my life, because it is different than paying somebody to listen to you, is when you're having conversations, open up with, would you like me to respond or would you like feedback? Or are you just trying to vent? And you either can say that to someone like, I'm just trying to vent right now, like maybe we talk about this in detail later, or I'm really looking for your guidance, so that you're asking permission to give and receive without just kind of unloading all of what you have right now, because your family member or confidant might not be ready at that time.
Yeah.
But you don't want to have that close you off to never going back and talking to them again. And this is kind of having that dialogue around, giving advice without burdening, which is why I think a lot of us don't tell our friends and our family what's really going on. So that's my advice if you don't have a therapist to kind of reach out to right away.
Okay. I want to say a couple of things, and we're going to wrap it up because I know it's getting late, and we got started really late today. I'm not here with the usual chill boys, as you guys can see, and we'll do that next time when we're back. Okay, so I want to provide some additional thoughts to the whole. Can you get help elsewhere? I think it's good that we all have some kind of friend, family, social network that we can fall back on, that we feel that we can trust and has our best interests at heart. And I think that's good. Now I'm going to contradict myself. Here's the thing. If you need a logo done, you should hire a professional. If you need a website done, you should hire a professional. When you need some help with your mindset, go to a professional. I'm just trying to be consistent. You saw that coming a mile away, right? Go to a professional. Get professional help. People who are trained to do this. People who are licensed. People who had 10,000 hours of practice doing this. And your mom, your dad, your brother, your cousin, your uncle, somebody there can be good for you, but they're not trained to do this. This is not their profession. This is not what they're geared to do. And so they may say things that'll help you, but sometimes they can say things to really damage you. And we don't
take her with a grain of salt, little pinch.
Yes, exactly, right?
Yeah.
And what I think is the question was, can I afford to go to therapy? And I think if you're thinking that, I want to ask you this question: can you afford not to go to therapy? And what kinds of things will you spend your money on that are indulgences that don't really lead to anything? Look at the last pair of shoes you bought, those Nikes that you had to have, or that handbag that you must have. Those things didn't contribute to your mental health at all, but you're willing to spend money on it.
Even the tools, sometimes they can wait a little longer. You need you.
The best tool you have is the one between your ears.
Yeah.
So let's work on that. Okay. I don't want to sound too preachy. I'm going to get off of it right now. The soapbox. Let me step down. Okay. And people who have tuned in late and have not done a great job, Rae Torres is on the show. Rae, tell people who you are and how they can get in touch with you.
You can find me online at Inked Flame. Right now, Instagram is the main spot for that, or eskproductions.com. We're on Facebook and Instagram for the cool Airstream van conversions.
And your background is you have a master's degree?
In 3D computer animation and a BFA in graphic design.
Look at that.
I'm all over the place.
You're all over the place.
I'm as all over the place as this talk was.
We'll work on that next time, you guys. I want to thank everybody who's tuning in live and for participating in the chat and for hitting the thumbs up. I'm going to sign off right now because I don't want to keep poor Jade in here. Nobody's had dinner. We're talking about food. And even though Rae can't eat any food or most kinds of food, I'm still hungry and I have a family to return home to. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in. You guys, do me a favor, hit the like. Hit the like and hit subscribe somewhere. I don't know where it's at. Hit subscribe. And we'll continue to bring you these after hours discussion where it gets frank, it gets real, it's unscripted, it's raw. Thank you very much, everybody. See you guys next time. Let's get out of here, Jaden.
All right.